It's thinking. Okay. We're live. Dion, thank you so much for being the first ever inaugural guest on our new Small Talk LinkedIn Live series we're going to be doing. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Carissa. What an honor, what a privilege to be the inaugural
Well, you better
guest.
be good. Yeah, it's high pressure situation.
I promise I'll try my best. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Well, as some of you guys know, on my LinkedIn community, we're doing a really exciting thing. We're launching something called Small News next Monday, September 8th. And as part of Small News, it's a new media platform where we're trying to explore the issues that are affecting small businesses globally. And every week I'll come here on LinkedIn and I'll talk to a friend, a partner, somebody that really has an expertise on the topic of macroeconomics, small business, all the issues that we care about at Silver Lining. And Dion, I'm actually doing this. You're in South Africa right now. I'm in Nairobi, Kenya. So it feels very fitting that the first ever Small Talk is being filmed from Africa, one of my favorite places and a really important continent for Silver Lining and for the global economy. And you have a big job in Africa. You're the CEO of PwC for all of Africa. Tell me more about that role. What does that mean? And how does small business, I mean, we're talking about PwC, one of the biggest consulting companies in the world, and then small business. How does your role intersect with small business?
Yeah. So PwC, Carissa, is the largest footprint firm on the African continent. Our brand enjoys that privilege for a number of reasons. Very close to our hearts is our purpose, which we articulate as building trust in society and solving important problems. I always say to our people that Africa needs a brand like PwC, and PwC has a deep, deep responsibility to contribute towards the growth and development of Africa. That is an obligation on the part of PwC. Now, this role of mine involves leading a team of about 400 partners located across the continent and nearly 10,000 staff members who actually personify the PwC brand and take it to our clients and other stakeholders every single day. I have the privilege of working with some highly talented and bright people, and it is really an honor for us to be able to attract and retain the best out of the best out there in terms of the talent that we have working for us and interacting with our clients. How does it link up with small business? Well, it's often interesting to think about this particular aspect, Carissa, of how do large business become the size that they are in the first place? Yeah, they have to start somewhere, don't they? Added to that, on this particular continent of Africa, we do have a massive challenge with regards to unemployment in many of our countries. And I'm a strong, strong believer that small business is one of the key components that any country needs in order to unlock and address this challenge of unemployment. Small business is our best opportunity to get as many people as possible working, giving them dignity, and making them feel like they contribute to something bigger and contributing to the economies of their respective countries.
I agree. So ditto, agreed. I always say that I think that one of the big mistakes people make who don't live in Africa is to think that the world's going to somehow come in and save Africa. And I happen to believe that Africa probably is going to save the rest of the world, and that the opportunity and the talent and the challenges on the continent are massive, but it requires business leadership. The problems that the continent faces and the opportunities that can be leveraged need business leadership. I think that it is critical for a number of reasons in the world right now for business leaders to rise to the occasion and for business to play a really critical role in society. And so I really, as I've gotten to know you, I've appreciated that about you, that there's something that's sort of deeply ingrained inside of you to take that responsibility really seriously, which I admire and I think really matters. I think we're seeing that governments and nonprofits and philanthropists and all the structures we thought would make the world okay are struggling to do that. It's not working. And so
Indeed.
the question I think we have to ask ourselves now is, what's the role of business now? What is the role of business and the institutions and the structures we have to do something about the problems in the world?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Carissa. And in amongst all of the chaos and mayhem that we see geopolitically at the moment, in there somewhere in this crisis has to lie an opportunity.
Yes.
And the role of business right now is to spot that opportunity, to capture that opportunity, and actually leverage it for the benefit of this continent.
Yes.
We also shouldn't forget that, throughout the history of mankind, during most times, there is always some form of geopolitical or other uncertainty. Yeah. There are conflicts in various parts of the world, including here on this continent. You think of places like the Sudan.
Yes.
Yeah. So all of us have a role to play. All of us need to decide how we are going to contribute to being a force for good. And business has a golden opportunity to actually assume that role. Business generally has shown that it is much better at strategizing, at implementing, at execution than governments. So to simply leave it to governments, I think, would be the wrong choice. And it really is time for business to step up to the plate and do what is needed right now.
I agree. Yeah, the word scares people, but I always say, like, business is the most powerful tool for justice. And we've been sort of skimming around justice, right? Business is talking about CSR and impact and all these other things that maybe make us feel more comfortable. But the definition of justice is just to build systems that are fair and reasonable, right? And so if a big business has so much influence over supply chains and customers and operations and staff and livelihoods and jobs, imagine if we simply just used those existing structures of business and made everything in the whole supply chain and all the stakeholder groups of businesses slightly better. That ripple of effect of that into all of society is significant. I just think that it's such a powerful tool for justice that we haven't tapped yet. And it doesn't mean that everyone needs to give their money away and we have to all become philanthropists and we have to tax the rich unreasonable amounts. It just means if we use the existing structures slightly better, slightly more collectively oriented, we might be able to change the economy. We might be able to actually create some of these systemic issues around unemployment and the wealth divide growing and these things that ultimately affect all of us.
It's really the type of common sense, Carissa, that you feel should be at all of our fingertips, right?
Right.
I'm sure many members of the audience watching this will know that doing good is good for business generally.
Yes.
And it's all of those things that you say. Many of the systems, processes, infrastructure is already there. It's about how do we leverage it? How do we scale it? How do we expand it in order to have the desired impact? I think about this unique feature of the African continent of being blessed with the so-called demographic dividend, which is this phenomenon of having the youngest of all, the youngest population rather, of young people of all the continents on Earth. But it is a dividend that, can actually backfire on us if not adequately managed, leveraged, and put to good use. Africa has a huge responsibility in the future to be a massive contributor to the human capital of the world. We see that some of the first world countries today have the issue of aging populations, so the opposite of Africa. And so that raises the concern about, if rates of reproduction in those countries is not as much as in Africa, who's going to do the work to sustain those countries in the future? And so Africa has this responsibility to really form the backbone of that future workforce. But we've got a responsibility to actually equip this young population in Africa with the type of tools, knowledge, training, and everything else they need to make them relevant and to actually put them in a position to be able to contribute positively.
Yeah, I'm so bullish on the idea that this is a responsibility of business leaders, and it's an opportunity that will make all of us better. It's not charity, it's not aid, it's not philanthropy. It's actually a good idea to make a more resilient economy work for everyone. And workforce is one of the things we as business leaders should be thinking about constantly. Now, on that note, I want to ask you a question. So you're the CEO of the biggest consulting firm in Africa. You're advising the biggest companies across Africa on how to adjust their strategy based on, macroeconomic, macro political, macro technology trends. The world is, you talked about building trust and solving important problems. The world is full of important problems right now. When you put yourself in the shoes of a small business owner, with the context that you have, what's the number one concern you have for them? When we look at so much changing and sort of how the global world order has gone and so much shifting ever so slightly in the economy and the political landscape, and obviously AI and all the changes in technology, as a consultant with your consultant hat on, if you're talking to small businesses, what's the number one thing that you think, none of us want to be worried, but paying attention to? What's the concern that could really harm or hurt small businesses who are trying to get through the next couple of years?
Yeah, great question, Carissa. If I were the owner of a small business, my biggest worry was whether I have the ability to adapt and change to a world that is going through the type of transformation that we've never seen before. Put simply, do I have the resources, the infrastructure to maintain my relevance into the future in a way that will allow my business to still be in existence and thriving, for that matter, 5 years from now, let alone 10 years from now, 5 years from now. Yeah. And without sounding too cliche, everybody's talking about AI. We know that. What does that mean for small business? Yeah. What is it that we need to do to make sure that even small business owners are taken along on this journey and not left behind, to make sure that they are future fit, future ready, to be able to make them key contributors to the economy in the future? That is what worries me about small business today.
Yeah, and I think, for the small businesses listening, one of the things we're seeing is that they're probably not future ready, is the reality. I mean, most small businesses have achieved what they've achieved, which is nothing short of admirable, but by doing things a certain way for probably a long time. And so to build into a mindset and an infrastructure, this like rapid, I'm not going to use the word innovation, but adaptability, that is, I think, the right word, you used it. It is kind of against the grain. And then the other reality is that most small businesses are not sitting on a lot of cash. And so the idea that all of a sudden they need a new machine, or they need a new employee, or they need a new fill in the blank, that's not readily accessible, I think, to the majority of small businesses. So that adaptability is, I think it's a mindset, but it's also a reality of physical resources, money in the bank to manage a change, or to suffer a couple months of poor cash flow as you shift your strategy. And so it's a huge thing we're talking to our community about is, can you build any cash reserves so that you're in a position to do what might be required to do the changes that are inevitably coming our way? And if we can't predict the future, which we can't, and if we're operating in an immense amount of uncertainty, then good strategy is not going to solve this. It's good response, right? Not reaction, but good adaptable response, meeting the moment wherever that moment brings us. Because I think if anyone tried to predict the future, they'd be lying at this point. I don't think any of us know exactly what's going to come in the next couple of years.
Yeah. And the approach for me, Carissa, in addition to that, the approach to address this challenge is probably multi-pronged.
Yeah.
And we have to consider the type of solutions that have probably not been seen before. We have to realize and acknowledge that to solve some of these issues, to take as many small businesses as possible along on the journey, we need some very practical interventions. Yeah?
Yes.
The type of interventions that will drive collaboration, the type of collaboration that could see larger companies actually adopting smaller businesses, right? Yes. In a type of big brother relationship to provide the type of resources and support that those small businesses do not have in order to be able to take them along on that journey.
Totally.
This is very counterintuitive to how we know the world economy working today. And I feel that organizations such as ours, PwC, if we are to be true to our purpose of building trust, solving important problems, we need to do all that we can in the spaces that we get to occupy to inspire others to see this need and this opportunity to collaborate differently and to realize that it will take many different actors in society to prepare all of us a lot better for this future that you referenced. So it's really about being a whole lot more creative and innovative in thinking through how best can all of us help small business actually thrive into the future as best as it can.
Yes, please. I agree. I think it is I believe this to my core, but it is to the benefit of absolutely everyone for small businesses to succeed. And so even if we think about the role of business leaders, like there's such a dearth of leadership right now that I think it would be so easy for business leaders to rise to the occasion and get all the PR and all the goodwill and all the brand recognition that they deserve for doing that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but these businesses need support desperately. We need them to succeed to keep the economy moving, and we need leaders to step up. And we're desperate for good leadership. We're desperate for models of leadership. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate you doing it. Okay, I've got 3 more quick questions for you. What's the opportunity in all this craziness and all this change as you think about what are you advising your clients? Like, what's the advice you're giving people? This is the opportunity of the moment. Go for it.
Yeah, so I referenced earlier chaos and mayhem that we often sort of feel on a daily basis. I think the opportunity for me is one to pivot, one of reimagining, reinventing, rethinking how one can improve one's business model to make it more resilient, to make it stronger in the future. It is within this chaos and mayhem, I believe, that we can think a lot more clearly, a lot more creatively about what our business needs to do in order to be stronger. When you look at a range of industries, you will quickly notice how the traditional boundaries that used to define various industries are slowly disappearing. And companies are more and more operating in industries that they would have ignored 5 years ago. And all of this is influencing what we see as value, how that value is defined. And this is value, by the way, that is constantly on the move and not static. It's value in motion is the terminology that we like to use here at PwC. And all of this, I think, creates opportunity. Rethink what your company is, rethink what its business model is, and rethink what it is you can do to add value to those around you, to your employees, to your customers, and what your role in society should be.
Yeah, I love that. I do think, we're obviously in the moment of a grand reckoning. I don't know what the reckoning is for or where we're trying to reckon towards or what it, but I think that anyone that's trying to protect and preserve is probably going to lose. And the question is, how do we move forward and recreate and reimagine? So I love that. Okay, this is my favorite question. If you could wave a magic silver wand, so of course it's silver, it's shiny, it's magic, and you could make one change right now that you think would have a positive impact on the global economy, what would it be?
Without even thinking twice, it's that matter of collaboration that I mentioned earlier. If we collaborate, right? If we all put aside ego and our own selfish needs, it can only be for the good and betterment of mankind, of the world. If large companies rethink what their role is and what their responsibility is to those smaller businesses, definitely collaboration would be my magic wand, Carissa.
Let's use it, please. I keep talking about, everyone thinks I'm a crazy person, but I've been talking about it for like 20 years. Imagine we were all measuring our success as leaders on collective return, not just our own personal gain, not just shareholder return, collective return. Imagine we were held to account as leaders. It's more ambitious. It's more audacious. It requires better leadership to imagine that we build businesses where everyone wins, including shareholders, including CEOs. And, it's not about martyrdom. It's about collaboration so that we create collective return. That's an ambitious, future vision of leadership that gets exciting to me.
I couldn't agree more, Carissa. Everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's use your magic wand. All right. This is my last question for you. Why does the topic of small business matter to you? You've accomplished huge success. You've got this massive job at a massive company. You consult to other massive companies. I've experienced you far beyond this conversation to be someone who really gets it, genuinely cares about small business. Why you, Dion, outside of your job? Why does this matter to you?
Yeah. There's often this misconception, Carissa, amongst many small business people who I meet, that a brand such as PwC is not for them. That it's too sophisticated, it's way out there, it's for the large corporates, it's inaccessible. And I find that so sad, because actually PwC does have a key responsibility to all businesses, including the tiniest ones. We are blessed with 175 years worth of knowledge, skills, and capability. And we want to use those attributes, again, to contribute towards the growth and development of this continent that we also love, that you love, which has so much potential, Carissa.
Yeah.
And certainly as part of my personal legacy, I want to look back one day and be satisfied that I did everything possible within my control to influence, to assist, to support in the best way that I can, right from the tiniest business to the largest corporates that we have out there.
Amazing. Well, thank you. I think we need a lot more business leaders like you. I hope that the people who watch, and just in general, I hope this movement of leaders taking responsibility and imagining that we could use, you've got so much influence. You've done such an amazing job with your career. And it gives me hope that someone with your values and your success can bring those things together and do something really powerful. So thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. Like you, I'm the eternal optimist. I'm certain we will get this right eventually.
Eventually. I know I keep saying to our team, it may all feel like it's falling apart, but that means we don't back down. We double down. We gotta double down.
We never give up. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I want to say thank you. I have resisted doing something like this for my whole career. And I've finally decided to do this small talk. And it's such a joy to do this with you. And this conversation has made me so excited about doing this every week, because I think the issues of small business are big. They're consequential. And so to be in dialogue and to surface them and talk about them is really important. And you were the perfect first person to do it with. So thank you.
Carissa, I've had immense fun doing this with you. I have no doubt this is going to be a huge hit as an initiative with your LinkedIn community. And I look forward to future updates and recordings. So all the best with the initiative. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.